Hello everyone. In this lesson I want to show you how you could use your own .com or .org or .xyz domain instead of just visiting your IP address for your VPS. Let's jump into the action and let me explain. So currently my VPS is offline, but if I go ahead and turn it on, so power on, and through the magic of video editing, I'll skip to when it's actually available. Okay, cool. So even after it says running for status, I had to wait like an extra 30 seconds in order for the computer to truly boot up and to truly have the Nginx service running. But now you can see I can visit my IP address. But instead of visiting an IP address, I want to be able to visit my domain. Now I registered a domain that's called learninglaravel.xyz. So in this lesson, I want to show you how I can use that, instead of an IP address. So back in the Linode dashboard, click on Domains in the sidebar. Okay, and then I'm going to click Create Domain. Now, I've already registered, I've already paid the yearly fee from another company. It doesn't matter which company, there are countless domain registrars out there. You can use whichever one you want. But just to be clear, I did not register my domain at Linode. So whatever company I registered my domain with, or whatever company you use, you just point your domain through that other company's dashboard. You point it towards Linode's name servers. So you would just give it, you can see Linode has very predictable name servers names. It's just ns1.linode.com, ns2.linode.com, so on and so forth. Anyways, back in the Linode dashboard, let's create a new domain. So my domain is learninglaravel.xyz. Enter your email address, and then for insert default records, I would just click the option to insert records for one of your Linodes, right? In other words, for one of your VPSs. So I would click that, and now I get to click which system. And I only have the one system, right, that costs $5 a month, and I named it Laravel Ubuntu. So I would choose that, and then just click Create Domain. Cool. Now, when you first go into whatever company you use to register your domain with and you change the name servers to point towards Linode or DigitalOcean or Vultr, that change might actually take a little bit of time, whether it's 10 minutes or 10 hours, but it might take some time to propagate across the entire internet. However, I believe mine is already propagated. So now if I tried to visit learninglaravel.xyz in the browser, awesome, we see our default Nginx installation. So that means we're actually successfully visiting it from the domain instead of the IP address. Now here's what's really cool. If we go into our terminal, we can actually now just say ssh root at, and then instead of the IP address, you could use your domain. So root at learninglaravel.xyz. Yes, I want to trust that domain. Press enter, just type in your password, press enter, and we're in. Awesome. Now, if your server was only going to have one website, one sort of default website like that, it's really that simple. However, one VPS, one server could actually host like 10 or 20 or 100 different domains. So right now I want to show you a little bit about Nginx, right? Because what if you bought 10 different domains and you wanted all of them to be hosted on just this one $5 a month Linode or VPS box? So you would need to learn a little bit about Nginx to make that happen. So do this with me. Assuming you've SSH'd into your machine, let's do this. Let's cd into /etc/Nginx. And then if you run an ls in that directory, you'll see that Nginx has a folder called sites available and sites enabled. So the idea is that you can create different sites, different projects or domains in the sites available folder, and then you just create like a symbolic link or shortcut so that it also exists in sites enabled. Let me explain. So if we cd into sites available, -available, and run an ls, yes, there's just the one file named default. And that's what's powering, sort of your default website when you visit the server on port 80 or, in the future, we'll visit 443, but port 80 for just HTTP. So that file named default in sites available, that's what we're seeing here. However, what if you wanted to host multiple domains or sites from this one VPS? Well, we can just create other files in this sites available folder. So let's do this. Let's say touch, and I'll just name it for example, my site. Press enter. So that created a brand new empty file in this directory. Now we can nano it to edit it. So nano my site. Now in this file, we're just going to write a bit of basic code. So this is not going to enable PHP or be set up for Laravel. Let's just set up a bare bones new sort of site or domain or project in Nginx. So we'd say server and then a pair of curly brackets. Inside there, we can just say listen on port 80, semicolon. And then here's the important part, server underscore name. And then I would say my domain. So learninglaravel.xyz space, also www.learninglaravel.xyz, semicolon. Below that, let me drop down and then, indent, let's say location / a pair of curly brackets. Inside the curly brackets, I'll say root / var / www, right? That's where our other files live, like the default site. Or remember in our Docker practice, that's where we left our Laravel files. So imagine we create a folder in there and just call it like my site temporarily. And then let's say which files should be served up. So just like index.html, semicolon. For now, this is all we need. We can revisit this file later when we actually want to enable PHP, but let's go ahead and press Control X to save the file, hit Y for yes, hit enter. And now let's just go create a folder in that expected location. So for example, if you cd into /var / www and then run an ls, there's just the one folder named HTML. So Nginx created that folder itself. That HTML folder is what's powering this welcome to Nginx default screen. However, you and I can create a brand new folder in there. So mkdir for make directory. That's how you create a folder. And let's give it a name. We named it my site, or we said this is where you should expect to look for the files. Now we can go into my site and let's create a file. So touch and just name it index.html. And then let's nano that index.html. And let's just have like a heading level one that says, welcome to our website, exclamation. Close out the H1. Let's go ahead and hit Control X to save that, and then Y for yes. Enter to keep that file name. Okay, now what we need to do is just copy that new file that we made, back in sites available. So for example, if you go back into cd / etc nginx / sites available, run an ls, right? In addition to default, we have this my site file. So what we want to do now to actually enable this new site is create a shortcut or a link so that this file virtually also lives in the sites enabled folder. Right, so it's the difference between sites-available and sites-enabled. We want to enable our new My Site project. So to do that, you would just do this. You say sudo ln to create a link, -s for symbolic link, and then the name of the file that we want to create a link for would be /etc/nginx sites available, and we named it My Site, and then a space. Where do you want to create the shortcut? Just /etc/nginx /sites-enabled /. Go ahead and press enter. And now you can confirm that you did that correctly by just cding up one directory, so .. and then go into the sites enabled folder. So cd sites enabled and run an ls. Beautiful. So we actually did successfully create that link. At this point, now that that's in place, we just want to reload the Nginx service so that it uses our latest changes. So to do that, you would just say sudo systemctl reload nginx. Go ahead and press enter. Okay, and now back in the browser, if you visit learninglaravel.xyz, well, obviously you have a different domain, but if you visit your domain and refresh, awesome. Welcome to our website. So just to recap, this is how you could have multiple domains living on just one $5 a month VPS box. To recap, let me show you how this truly worked. If we go nano this file again, so let me go back up a folder and then go into sites-available, and if I nano, we named it my site, right? That's what this server name value is. So you could have multiple domains pointing towards the same, Linode or VPS, and then you can create just different Nginx entry files just like this, and you just provide the actual domain for that specific project, right? And then you say like what files should be served up. This is really cool because this allows you to get amazing value for your dollar, right? For just $5 a month, you could host multiple projects, assuming that they're not getting tons of traffic. Let me Control X out of there. We didn't make any changes. Anyways, that's going to bring this lesson to a close. We successfully connected a domain to our site. In our next lesson, I want to talk a little bit about SSH keys. Don't worry, it should be a very quick lesson, and then directly after that, we're going to start getting our server actually ready for Laravel, right? So we'll install things like PHP, MySQL, Composer, so on and so forth. Let's keep our momentum rolling, and I will see you in the next lesson.